Some women appear intelligent in ways the world easily recognizes. They can manage situations, play their roles with elegance, and fit into expectations with practiced grace. But there is another kind of intelligence, one far rarer and infinitely deeper. It is the intelligence of a woman who is awakened from illusion, who no longer lives only to meet society's endless demands. In a world that constantly shifts, filled with pressures, judgments, and the subtle weight of tradition, the strongest woman is not the one who adapts most cleverly. She is the one who stands rooted in her inner truth, an anchor unmoved by the storms of the external world. She no longer strives to become a reflection of others' desires. Instead, she journeys back to herself. And as Jung often said, that journey is the greatest privilege of a human life. What sets such a woman apart cannot be measured by circumstances or possessions. It lies in the principles she carries silently within her, a compass guiding her through confusion and distraction. These principles are not about success in the ordinary sense. They are about authenticity, about living in harmony with her essence when the world pressures her to conform. And once you begin to understand them, they illuminate a path to a different kind of life, one rooted in clarity and freedom. The first principle of this path is not about ambition, appearance, or recognition. It begins with a question, one that is disarmingly simple yet powerful enough to redirect an entire life. Why? Most people live not by choice but by reaction. They react to social pressures, to what is expected, to what seems safe or respectable. Careers are chosen for their promise of stability, relationships are pursued for comfort or approval, and lifestyles are adopted simply because they appear reasonable. But none of this guarantees fulfillment. A wise woman refuses to live this way. She does not let her existence be defined by what she does, but by why she does it. Jung once said, "Your vision becomes clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." This is her way of life, living from the inside out. The world may be noisy, but within her there is silence, a stillness that guides her. She understands the difference between a goal and a motive. A goal is an endpoint. A motive is the fire that carries her there. Without a true motive, even success feels hollow. Think of life as crossing a desert. Without direction, the sand shifts, the winds confuse, and every path can turn into a circle. Many women chase mirages, titles, possessions, or images of the perfect life. They arrive at destinations society praises, only to discover emptiness waiting there. I have known women with careers, wealth, and carefully curated appearances, yet when asked if they are truly happy, their answer trembles. "I don't know why I'm living this way." That is the trap of living for the what. It shines on the surface, but lacks depth. The woman who lives for the why does not run endlessly in search of approval. She moves slowly, but with purpose. Each step, however small, is meaningful because it arises from her center. This is what Jung called the self, the psychological core of our being. Once a woman touches this center, she no longer needs to chase roles, labels, or applause. Her presence alone carries weight, quiet yet undeniable. Consider those who inspire us most. They are not always the glamorous figures who dominate headlines. Sometimes they are teachers in forgotten villages, mothers building futures from their kitchens, or artists who paint in silence each night. Their power does not come from what they have achieved in the world's eyes, but from the depth of why they continue. When they speak of their work, there is a gravity in their words, a quiet force that cannot be faked. A woman who lives this way does not measure her life by numbers or titles. Instead, she asks herself after each decision, "Who am I becoming?" Because of this choice? That is maturity, the kind Jung spoke of, not in achieving more, but in becoming whole. And because she is anchored in this inner clarity, she possesses a peace that draws others without her trying, not through loud declarations, but through the unshakable calm of someone who knows her life is her own. Yet holding on to one's inner truth is not easy. The world constantly tempts us to trade it for something sweeter: recognition, approval, the promise of belonging. And so the second principle emerges: protecting self-respect at all costs. A wise woman may lack many things, but she refuses to lack respect for herself. Modern society rewards likability more than authenticity. Women are often taught to be agreeable, to smile even when tired, to soften their edges to avoid offending, to bend for the sake of peace. Decline a suitor politely and you are called arrogant. Set boundaries at work and you are seen as unapproachable. Demand fairness and suddenly you are rebellious. The hidden message is always the same: be liked, even if it costs you your truth. But the wise woman sees through this illusion. Approval is like a fog, comforting for a moment, but in time, it blinds and confuses. When you adjust yourself only to be liked, you are not loved. You are merely tolerated for the role you play. And roles are fragile masks. Jung called this the persona, the face we show the world. Useful, yes, but dangerous when mistaken for who we really are. Because every time you compromise yourself for recognition, a piece of your essence dims. And soon, you forget who you were before you put on the mask. There are countless women who have risen high in the eyes of the world, only to discover a deep hollowness behind the applause. Some have spoken openly about losing themselves in fame or expectation, realizing, too late, that external recognition had eroded their inner core. The turning point always comes not in glory, but in the quiet, painful question: if everyone admires me, but I no longer admire myself, then who am I living for? That question is the beginning of wisdom. The woman who chooses self-respect over recognition learns a different kind of strength. She may lose approval, but she gains freedom. She no longer performs for applause. She sets boundaries, and in doing so, transforms her presence into something unshakable. Approval fades, but self-respect endures. It is the one treasure she never trades, no matter how tempting the offer. There is another truth that shapes the path of the wise woman. She learns never to ignore her intuition. Self-respect may keep her grounded, but it is intuition that tells her when to stay, when to walk away, and when to change her path entirely. In a world filled with noise, logic, and carefully polished appearances, this inner voice is often dismissed as sensitivity or imagination. But intuition does not argue. It does not shout. It whispers. And those who have trained themselves to listen find that it often saves them from the very storms reason could not predict. A woman may sit across from a partner, a colleague, or even a stranger, and sense something is not quite right. Nothing obvious, just a subtle shift in tone, a glance that doesn't match the words, a small heaviness in the chest. Most would ignore it, reasoning it away. But a wise woman does not. She knows those small signals are not random. They are messages from the depths of the self, a language the unconscious speaks through the body before the mind catches up. And many times, listening to that whisper spares her from harm or disappointment. Jung believed intuition was one of the four fundamental ways we navigate the world, as real and powerful as logic or sensation. But unlike logic, it does not rely on evidence. It is ancient knowledge, encoded in symbols and feelings passed down through generations. Once upon a time, this instinct helped our ancestors survive danger in the wilderness. Today, it helps us survive dangers of another kind: false promises, broken trust, deceptive appearances. To dismiss it is to silence one of the oldest protectors of the human soul. Yet even with intuition as a guide, another test arises. The world often demands women make themselves smaller, more agreeable, less intense, easier to accept. This shrinking can appear harmless, even wise. It can wear the disguise of compromise, patience, or maturity. But with every act of shrinking, a woman drifts further from her essence. The wise woman learns, sometimes painfully, that if she must make herself less to belong, then it is not truly her place. Society tells women to soften, to be less outspoken, to hold back their fire so others can feel comfortable. But a woman who is awakened understands that dimming her light to fit is the surest way to lose herself. She would rather walk alone in truth than stay surrounded in silence. For her, wholeness is more important than acceptance. Individuation, as Jung described it, is not becoming perfect. It is becoming whole. And that wholeness includes both: the softness and the sharp edges, the light and the shadow. When she refuses to shrink, she offers others an invisible invitation: the courage to expand themselves too. She becomes a reminder that authenticity, though difficult, is always possible. And though it may unsettle those who prefer conformity, it quietly inspires those who are secretly yearning for freedom. When a woman learns not to shrink, another challenge often arrives in silence, the temptation to compare. The world measures constantly. Who is more beautiful, more successful, more admired? Social media turns this into an endless mirror where women unknowingly compete not just with others, but with their own carefully crafted images. Yet the wise woman refuses this game. She understands that competition is born from scarcity, the false belief that if someone else shines, her own light must dim. But light is not scarce. When one flame is lit, it only makes the room brighter for all. She does not enter a space to outshine anyone. She enters to expand it, to create resonance, not rivalry. When she sees another woman succeed, she does not ask, "Why not me?" Instead, she asks, "What does this awaken in me?" In that shift, envy becomes inspiration, comparison becomes collaboration. She recognizes that another's growth does not threaten her. It proves that growth is possible for her too. This is the strength of resonance, and yet resonance is not enough if the voice is silenced. There comes a time when wisdom demands speech, even if the voice trembles. Many women retreat into silence, worn down by judgment or dismissal, believing it is easier not to speak than to risk being misunderstood. But silence can also be self-erasure. A wise woman knows that when the soul calls her to speak, not answering, that call is a deeper betrayal than any rejection from the world. She does not speak to argue or to win. She speaks to remain whole, to preserve the link between her inner self and the outer world. Her words may not be loud, but they are true, and truth carries its own unshakable weight. Finally, perhaps the greatest test of all comes in love. Love has the power to illuminate, but also the power to consume. Many women lose themselves within it, molding their identity around another until their reflection disappears. But a wise woman does not love to escape herself. She loves to become more of herself. She knows that true love is not dissolving into one another, but walking side by side, each whole, each free, each stronger because of the other's presence. If love demands she silence her voice, dim her light, or shrink her being, she will walk away. Not because she does not need love, but because she refuses a love that costs her her soul. This is her path, not of perfection, but of return, again and again, to herself. She may stumble, she may doubt, she may even stray, but she does not stay lost. Jung once said, "The journey toward oneself is rarely glamorous, often lonely, but always worth taking." For the wise woman, every step closer to her true self is a victory, not just for her, but for the world. Because when one woman dares to live authentically, she becomes a silent invitation for others to do the same.